Yeah, it's the $1 Million Bitcoin episode of the podcast that has its radar sights set firmly on crypto. And I'm joined, as usual, by Vegas Darren Klein. How's it hanging, Darren?
It's going good. Yeah, summer. I love summer. What I like about summer, if I look back in history, is there tends to be kind of a lag in Bitcoin, and then towards the end of summer, there's usually a nice run up.
You're one of those Bitcoin pumps in summer folks, are you?
It's the fact.
You're a disciple.
Not during summer. It's usually kind of lags during summer, but at the end of summer, in the fall, it starts going. And we're talking about $1 million Bitcoin today.
We are talking about $1 million Bitcoin. Has that played out every year or just like once?
It's a pretty good pattern. It's a pretty steady pattern.
Okay. I'm not sure I'm buying it, to be honest. I remember last year. I'm not sure about
it had a good run. It broke past 14K in the summer last year.
It did, absolutely. It's still a long way shy, however, of the $250,000 BTC projection by early 2023, as Tim Draper said would happen. And if it doesn't, he said he'll eat a raw egg, which is a little bit different from what John McAfee threatened to eat and do so on live television.
Considerably less risky.
I know, right? What would you rather eat? Don't answer
definitely
that.
The raw egg. Definitely the raw egg. I'll go for that. Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's an interesting argument, and I think, you can find opinions ranging anywhere from, $0, like Peter Schiff, to $1 million and anywhere in between. I mean, I've seen predictions of very precise amounts. I don't know if you saw the one where it was $467,253 or something like. I forget which expert that was projecting that price. Based on, this and that mathematics. But let's look today at what is the reality of Bitcoin ever reaching $1 million. And, do you think it's even possible, or when might that happen? What do you think?
I think anything's possible. I think what's more realistic is that we'd be looking for it exceeding the market cap of gold, paper plus physical.
Okay, now we talked about this before, and when I looked at the topic of gold, I was looking at bullion, so actual physical gold, which in the market today stands at a value, if you took all the gold in the world, filled those 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools with it, you'd have, which really doesn't take up that much space, you'd have about $9 trillion, right? That's in physical gold.
Yeah.
Now you talk about paper gold. What kind of value is there sitting in paper gold that people are just trading back and forth?
Yeah, I thought there was. I did know this. I'm looking it up now. So I'm getting 8 trillion for physical.
Yeah, it's up bullion. And down between 8 and 9 trillion in that range. Now, while you're looking that up, I'll just talk about what I was going to say about this comparison. If you had parity with gold, physical gold in Bitcoin, because Bitcoin itself, I'm talking physical Bitcoin, not derivatives, not ETFs, whatever, physical Bitcoin. Well, as physical as it gets.
Yeah.
Would result, if it had parity with gold, $9 trillion, a Bitcoin would be about $500,000, about $500,000, because there's currently about 18 million in circulation. You take that, you multiply, blah, 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 you get around that mark. Right now, Bitcoin at about $10,000 per coin.
Yeah.
It's 180 billion in Bitcoin right now, right?
Yeah, 166 billion.
Anyway, let me talk about this while you're looking up this paper gold thing here, right?
Yeah.
You've got...
And not a single fucking twat is trying to fucking nominal ton equivalent. The fuck does that mean? What the fuck is nominal ton equivalent? Is that paper gold?
I don't know, man. I don't know a whole lot about the paper gold side of things. I'll talk about the physical gold side of things. Physical gold, bullion, you're looking at about $9 trillion.
And sorry, I'm just going to jump in. Paper gold is about that as well.
Okay. So if you took the two together, you got about 18 trillion.
Yeah.
So then if I compare it to Bitcoin, currently its market cap is about 170 billion, you were saying 167 billion. And if it were at 10K, it would be $180 billion market cap for Bitcoin, correct?
Yep.
So you got about 18 million of them times 10,000,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So if you take a $1.8 trillion market cap, which is still only less than a quarter of the market cap of gold, you're talking $100,000 per Bitcoin, right? And that's with a market cap that's not far off from one or two big corporations like Apple or Google. So to me, $100,000 Bitcoin is very much within reach, and very, very, very possible. $1 million, that's another story. When you're talking $1 million, that's a pretty huge jump. You're talking all physical gold, all paper gold equivalent to Bitcoin's market cap. That's a huge jump. Now,
So
in the course of time, maybe, but I don't know about.
You're making a kind of
Bitcoin.
feasibility argument.
Yeah. Just in terms of how much money is moving around in the world. I mean, you take a situation, say like Maduro in Venezuela, and this British court saying, nope, you can't have your gold, right? So somebody like that might say, you know what, fine, we're going to start using Bitcoin instead, and we're going to settle in Bitcoin because then we don't need your stupid gold, right? And take one or two countries doing that, and you start to creep into that gold circulation. But to take over the entire circulation of gold in paper and physical gold, that's an enormous amount of money.
It is an enormous amount of money. But it is the grayscale argument, right? It is the bullish for Bitcoin argument that it is a natural replacement for clunky, heavy metal.
Well, and I can see that happening, but I don't see it eating gold. Like gold's going to still be around.
Oh yeah, for sure. I would agree. I don't see it replacing gold. I see it perhaps complementing gold. I don't think it's beyond the realm to think of Bitcoin as matching the market cap of gold. So I've just looked up global GDP. And in 2019, it was $142 trillion. So this is annually. That's how much money is how much value is being created per year.
You're talking all value.
Yeah. So gold plus paper gold represents
18 trillion. You said.
Yeah, represents about 10%, about 12% of that. You add in investments with pension funds, and there is a hell of a lot of money that can be moved into Bitcoin should people choose to move it into Bitcoin. If that level of demand, if we see that, if we hit those levels of demand, I think all bets are off. I don't think $1 million Bitcoin is out of the question. I don't see it happening overnight, obviously, but I think it's very much on the cards as being potential. And in fact, I'll go as far as to say if Bitcoin doesn't achieve a level of a market cap equivalent to physical gold within the next, I'm going to give it 4 or 5 years, I think we might say that the drop gold campaign has failed and that Bitcoin won't ever be recognized as a store of value. I think the time for Bitcoin to do that is now.
Well, I think there is the other element that you shouldn't forget is that because of the huge amount of money printing going on, that will result in the inflation problem and will result in hard assets rising in value. Gold itself, while it's currently at $18 trillion, in 4 or 5 years, the market cap of gold might be $50 trillion.
Yeah.
In which case, the market cap of Bitcoin being, 18 trillion wouldn't be that ridiculous.
It wouldn't be.
Right? At which point it would be $1 million per Bitcoin, right? Because here's the thing, we tend to forget, we don't see inflation, right? We tend to, it's a very effective way to tax people because it's not that obvious, right? You go to, go out for dinner and it ends up costing you, $10 more than it did last year. and it's not really that noticeable. But at the end of the day, you go, oh man, it's kind of tougher to, save up because of inflation. And those hard assets like gold, they are going up in value against the dollar.
Cash. Yeah.
And so, yes, right now, all of gold stands at $18 trillion. All the world's wealth stands at 140 trillion or whatever you said, right? But 4 or 5 years from now, that might be 3, 4, 500 trillion dollars. I mean, the US literally printed, I think, 75% of their entire treasury in the last few months. Isn't that correct? Like,
it's something.
You're not
like,
far from doubling the
yeah.
amount of money floating around in that system, right? Which has to carry into inflation at some point.
Yep. Whether that's this year or not, I don't know. But I agree with you. And Hugo from LGO last week made what he called a conservative prediction that central banks would start to hold Bitcoin rather than the US dollar, which would be a kind of a pivot point to increasing demand, institutionalized and legitimized demand for Bitcoin, and hard demand, right? Not flippant day trader, crazy whale on BitMEX style demand, but genuine. We keep in this for national security reasons demand.
Right. And with that, you have countries that could potentially start mining for Bitcoin in a race to have monetary independence that cannot be controlled through, military might or whatever. Right. So, I mean, if you look at the American dollar, the reason why it's dominant is because of the American military. If you look in history, you look at, say, people like Gaddafi, Hussein, they were rejecting the US dollar, and that's why they were killed. That's why they were attacked. And it's to maintain that dominance. And when more and more countries go to unconfiscatable ways of holding their reserves or of gaining independent wealth from other nations like the US, you could see a serious race happening there. And there's no way to stop it other than to race against it. Right.
Yeah.
So if you look at, say, Iran saying we're going to encourage more mining, right? What can the US do to stop that except mine more themselves, which becomes this, cascading hash war, and that will push prices up. And that's where prices can become what seem like irrational prices. I mean, who'd have thought 5 years ago that Bitcoin would be trading now for almost $10,000 US, and people would be like, oh, this is boring. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's done crazy things in its lifetime. There's no reason to expect that it won't continue to do crazy things. Bobby Lee is Charlie Lee's brother. Yeah,
is that right?
Yep, and he's the founder of a wallet called Ballet, as in the thing that you know,
the dancing.
Yep. And he's made this argument that gold at $8 trillion, physical gold at $8 trillion is 50 times the amount of Bitcoin. He predicts a flippening within 9 years. Now, when the hell did he say that? Putting Bitcoin at half a million. And then that was at the end of last year. And with all the money printing that's happening globally, he says Bitcoin will actually very likely be over $1 million. And that was November 2019. So
my argument is it doesn't have to flip gold. Gold is going to grow so much because of the money printing, and Bitcoin's going to grow as well. And I've never been a anti-gold person. People like Peter Schiff always try to paint it as it's Bitcoin versus gold, but anyone who understands hard assets knows, look, they're both hard assets, right? And as Bitcoin grows, gold will grow as well. I don't think it has to eat into gold in order to grow to that value. Because again, look at gold's market cap 5 years ago. What was gold's market cap 5 years ago? $3 trillion? $4 trillion? It was much less than it is now, because the prices have, what was the price of gold 4 or 5 years ago? Let's check.
I don't think it's changed. Mate, Peter Schiff is making, Peter Schiff made an absurd.
This will take some editing.
Okay. So it's trading now at $1,800 an ounce,
Mm-hmm.
Which it was also trading at in 2011.
Okay.
Now it is up.
That's right. I forgot.
Yeah. So 2019, I mean, I understand. So 2018, 19, it was around $1,200.
Okay. So it's climbed like
It
almost
has climbed.
50% then.
Yeah. Yeah. It has climbed rather significantly.
So the market cap has increased 50%. So say it was 6 trillion. Now it's 9 trillion.
Yeah.
That's a 50% climb, right?
Yeah.
So now, of course, there's lots of things keeping gold, where it is. There's a lot of people selling short on it and that kind of stuff, suppressing the price, whatever. There was that interesting thing in Egypt the other day where they found a $1.8 billion quantity of gold that they figured was like, I don't know what that's called, a gold vein or whatever, where, and so you come across things like that with gold that will devalue gold because it lowers the scarcity, at least temporarily. Of course, Bitcoin doesn't have that problem, right? Bitcoin being
We know what the scarcity
scarce.
is.
It's
Yes.
a fixed scarcity.
Yes. Speaking
Yeah.
of scarcity, this is a seamless transition here. The stock to flow forecast, as we all know. So this is the idea that Plan B has measured Bitcoin in terms of as a commodity, and the way you do that is stock to flow, which means how many years it takes to replace the existing already dug up stash. And gold's stock to flow ratio is 52. So it would take 52 years of mining gold to replace, so to double the amount of gold that's
unless they come across an enormous gold vein like they did the other day.
Unless that sort of shit happens, yeah. So we in applying the stock to flow to Bitcoin, and this all had to do. There was a lot of discussion about this, and I know it's been quite controversial, but there was a lot of discussion about this in relation to the recent halving, because that's when Bitcoin's stock to flow value, ratio, is close to gold. It's something like 47, 48. And now what Plan B has done has added silver. So he's got gold and silver, and he gets, I don't know how he's combined the two, but what he gets now is a $288,000 per Bitcoin price, given in light of the recent halving, and that he expects that previously it was 100,000 by 2024 with this. This is the fourth generation. Do we call that the fourth era of rewards? Yeah. So it's he's tripled his price forecast from 100 to 288.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the camp that looks at, say, about a year's time. You were talking about this before, following the halving. I'm looking at about 100,000 per Bitcoin. To me, seems realistic, which might sound ridiculous to outsiders, but if you just do simple math, it's not an inconceivable number, especially when compared to the larger conditions of the market. I think, what's part of that is when we do reach, say we get back to 20,000 by December. Let's say we do that.
Okay.
The amount of people who will jump back in and buy in retail, it'll be a huge influx, because that's the reality of human psychology is, and I know this for myself talking to people, they ask me about Bitcoin all the time, right? I'm sure you have this too. And when it was $3,300, I was saying, buy it now. This is a great time to buy it. It hasn't been this low. If you look at yearly lows, I looked up a chart on yearly lows, and yearly lows for 2019, it was $3,360. 2018 was $3,200. Prior to that, 2017 was $780. So in 2018, when it was $3,200, that was, relatively speaking, a fantastic time to buy. But none of them wanted to, because they're like, oh no, it's going to be worthless. It's going down, right? But I feel like the yearly lows, watching those is actually a pretty good indicator of where Bitcoin's going, as opposed to focusing on these weird outliers of spikes.
Okay.
Right. And so when you look at that, people didn't want to buy because it's low price. And when it gets higher, that's when most people go, okay, I want to buy. So I feel that if we do get to that 20K mark, we're going to see a run to 50, 60, 70 within a month's time. It could just be a huge spike and then a fall.
Mm-hmm.
But it's mob mentality. It's the way people behave in these markets.
Do you predict that so that would be another end of 17, early 18 FOMO?
There has to be another
weirdness.
FOMO run when it does reach the next, when it returns to all-time high, there will be another FOMO run. I feel that there will be.
Okay.
What do you think?
Well, again, I'm a little bearish for this year simply because of the levels of unemployment and the last
timing
thing
is hard to say.
Yeah. So not for this year. I don't think, I am long-term bullish on Bitcoin's price potential. Absolutely. I don't think this is the year that people are going to be, people have savings to put into Bitcoin or thinking about anything other than, as George Bush would say, putting food on their families, because there's a pandemic and shit, there's quite a bit of stuff going on, and there's unemployment's high. I think people are worried about getting through the week rather than dabbling in a highly speculative, bizarre asset that you need to remember 12 words and you can't be. I mean, it's still a little bit hard.
It's very clunky still.
Yeah, it's very clunky, and there's a retail race to get into it. I just don't see it happening in this economy, in this macroeconomic. As you know, I'm more.
Yeah, it could take longer than what I was saying. I was saying, December, but I mean, who knows? It could take another year, like we were saying.
Well,
my point being, when it reaches that all-time high, there will be FOMO buying.
Yeah, I probably would agree with you on that. And Mike, well, as you know, Mike Novogratz has said he's going to hang. So Tim Draper is going to eat a raw egg if his prediction doesn't come true. John McAfee is going to eat the big boy on live TV if his prediction
he's already backpedaled out of that.
Oh, he's going to do it.
Oh yeah, no. He's said many times now. Oh, I was just joking. Yeah.
No.
He said, "What are you talking about? $1 million Bitcoin's ridiculous. Give me a break." Like, yeah. He's like, people couldn't tell I was joking.
I wonder if he's going to be Kanye West's Veep in November.
That would be.
That'd be
I would vote for West McAfee over Trump and Biden. Like, that's a slam dunk.
Like, who's the least insane of that? Novogratz. His thing is a little bit less. I mean, come on, Mike. You can do better than this. He's going to
explain. What's he going to do?
If Bitcoin doesn't hit 20K in 2020, and bearing in mind he's just partnering up with Bacht to offer white glove services to institutional investors.
That was disappointing.
He says he's going to hang his spurs. Now, if he just means get out of the game, I'm not sure if he means I'm going to get out of the game or I'm going to eat a couple of body parts that are hanging, John McAfee style. I'm not sure. But I guess hang his spurs means he's going to exit he's going to get bored with it and exit the industry. I don't see him doing that.
That's what the expression means. I don't know if he was being literal. He's going to go hang some boots up outside his house or something. I don't know.
Oh, because you're from Alberta. You've got all the cowboy slang, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The other thing that kind of factors into this argument, and it comes from the whole kind of big block fork and all that stuff that now we can clearly see, you know what? Bitcoin doesn't need big blocks. It needs layers, which it will get. It doesn't need them. People will make layers, right? Yes, it's a small block, and yes, it's relatively slow, but there are layers that are being built on it, and Lightning is a perfect example. And every day you see more and more applications of the Lightning Network that are genuine, feasible, working applications of the network, and they work quickly and they work easily, and they're easier to deal with than real settling of physical Bitcoins. And there's wallets out there that work great now. And my argument there being, I feel that over the course of the next 5 years, Bitcoin's going to eat a bunch of these altcoins. It's just going to consume them. They're going to become a layer that runs on Bitcoin, similar technology, right? You've got the competing technologies saying, oh, we're going to be able to do this better than Bitcoin, and this technology better than this than Bitcoin. But what's happening is that more and more layers are being built on Bitcoin that do that task. So if you look at the legacy financial system, you have relatively slow money sitting at the bottom. You try to wire money on a Saturday, forget it. It's not happening. You have to wait until banks are open. It's clunky. But then you have services built on top of that. You have Visa, you have PayPal, you have Venmo. Those are all layer 2 services built on top of the old legacy financial system. And the same thing's going to happen with Bitcoin. You're going to have layers built on it. They're going to be making it easier to use, making it faster. And you won't necessarily always settle in the Bitcoin itself layer. You'll be up in the higher layers using it for various different functionalities.
Yeah.
But so my point being, it'll consume that altcoin market, which in and of itself will make Bitcoin more dominant and have more value.
So it will become what the vision was, a peer-to-peer network for transacting, not necessarily with the ultimate beneficiaries of it receiving Bitcoin, but receiving what they want. Bitcoin just fueling the transactions.
Sure. Look at Ethereum and look at them doing this thing where they're wrapping Bitcoin on Ethereum in order to trade it more quickly or whatever. Nobody's wrapping Ethereum on Bitcoin.
That's true.
Why would you? The point is to take the valuable hard asset and trade that.
Yeah. Let's get someone to do that. You talk to Akon, see if he can wrap some Ethereum on Bitcoin.
Which wrap are you talking about now? WRAP or?
That was a terrible joke.
That was a bad pun.
I'm prone to them. The thing though, Darren, is there's the velocity of money argument, right, that stands against all of this, which is actually that we don't want people moving Bitcoin around. We want institutional investors to buy it, keep it, stuff it under their mattresses. The faster money moves around, the lower its value. You've heard the velocity of money argument before. So that's what the bears would say. I'm perfectly happy with Bitcoin remaining a clunky, unusable thing that no merchant in their right mind would accept. But to be an investment instrument.
Nobody goes to the grocery store with bars of gold.
Yes,
right.
True. Right.
Nobody carries around gold for trade. Yet gold has enormous value and is used for the settlement of large quantities of money. Right. So this whole idea that it has to be the Bitcoin itself, that's this high velocity, highly liquid traded asset. It's just a misdirection, in my opinion.
I agree.
It's the layers built on top of it that will bring it that utility, and that's fine.
So I agree, and I think that's where the mainstream adoption issue misses the point, which is Bitcoin does not need to be mainstreamified to get to these numbers, to get to $1 million or whatever it's going to get to. Velocity of money. We actually want it to change hands as infrequently as possible, like gold. We want it to be stuck in vaults, owned by people with, owned by billionaires, and never move.
Well, and the beauty of it being, when you look at the gold standard years ago, that was something that it was declared by a government. They're like, our money will be tied to this much gold, right? And it was kind of an enforced standard. The Bitcoin standard needs no such enforcement. It just happens because people recognize its value and they're willing to trade on it. And it doesn't need any government party to say, okay, this is how many dollars you'll have for this much Bitcoin. It doesn't require anybody to enforce that, which is the beauty of it.
It is the beauty of it. So we're going to get, I'm liking your argument that you can see 100,000
I'm saying by the end of 2021, I think we will see it past that point.
I think
I
next
feel
year
that
is the year. Yeah, I think I'm looking at 18 months out of the previous halving, which gets us to toward the end of 2021.
Mhm.
Um,
I do see some bearish stuff happening in the short term here. I think we can see ourselves back into the 6,000s possibly over the next month or two, maybe few months.
based on
Just things like MACD indicators, trading indicators, bearish climate, the fact that all these mining companies are struggling. You look at that and you go, okay, there's going to be more and more difficulties there with some of these possibly collapsing. Like Bitmain is seeing a lot of competition now.
mhm.
Generally, though, in the long term, competition will cause things to improve, right? But there's a little bit of a period here that we might see some pullback.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah.
Bloomberg recently is on your side, suggesting it could soar to 28,000 in this year.
Yeah, I do feel that passing the 20,000 mark is very reasonable this year. And when it does, again, it will run following that because people follow the mob, people follow the crowd. So, it's a slow and steady climb in some ways, but it has these moments of panic and FOMO that cause these crazy rush-in behaviors, right? So it's an interesting scenario.
Do you think that because I mean Hugo from LGO last week was quite convinced that what will drive the price in the end is big money. Do you see those guys FOMOing in if it does indeed?
No, I think it's the retail buyers that do the FOMO stuff, right? The smart money, they're just slowly going to accumulate. But when you look at places around the world where they're starting to be more concerned about, okay, what's my financial outlook here? Look at Lebanon now. Look at these countries where the currency is collapsing. Well, you've got people, it's a global currency. So if you have a region where people are starting to feel fearful about their stability of their finances, they might go, you know what, I'm just going to put a few $100 in Bitcoin just in case, it can be for the simplest things. It could be so that they have groceries, like it doesn't have to be a huge amount, but you take that and multiply that by hundreds of thousands of people all over the world doing that. It can increase the demand quite a bit. Because remember, we talk about 18 million Bitcoin. There isn't 18 million Bitcoin in circulation right now. Probably 10 million of those Bitcoins are sitting somewhere that they're not going to be touched by anybody, whether it's that they were lost or someone's numbers. Just stored it away for years.
Yeah.
Right?
So it was recently, I believe Chainalysis recently released figures. They count about 3 million as lost, about 11 million as being hodled.
Correct.
In the parlance of our times,
that leaves you with like maybe 4 million.
3 million being actively traded.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a really small amount.
Yeah. And there's only 3 million left to be mined, which is exactly the amount that's been lost, right?
Right. I mean, it's hard to say that they're lost. They could just be hodled, right? We don't really know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how Chainalysis differentiates between lost Bitcoin and hodled Bitcoin, but I guess it's time spent not moving.
Right. But I mean, didn't we just have it? Wasn't that a couple months ago where there was a original wallet that moved and everybody's like, oh, it's Satoshi Nakamoto's wallet, and everybody's freaking out about it. But it wasn't. And, and it was like one of those wallets that they wondered, is this just lost money? Is just money that's just been abandoned on a hard drive somewhere?
Yeah, right. Yeah. But I mean, I think it's probably widely assumed that a couple of million have been probably lost.
Oh, yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Especially in those early days when people were just,
tossing them around anything,
like, right?
Yeah, for pizza, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm liking the, so I don't. Yeah, I'm liking you. I'm liking your predictions. You're a little more short-term bullish or medium-term bullish than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would, my, if I were to make a definitely not financial advice style prediction, I would suggest that if there were no, and I'm hearing all the caveats, were there no COVID, and if Kanye West wins the election, I'll make a couple of caveats. Were there no COVID and subsequent, the world's in recession everywhere's recessionary at the moment.
Sure.
Had that not happened, I would be very confident of the S2F predictions by within 18 months of the halving. So that gets us to what? This is September or something, 2021. I'm not quite as confident now, given the macro economic situation.
I feel that the whole COVID
Definitely not
disaster,
financial advice. Sorry.
yeah, I feel that there's further proof that Bitcoin is extremely resilient when you look at what happened around the world with economies and how, yes, Bitcoin did take a bit of a dive when there was that first bit of a stock market drive and everybody freaked out, right? But it bounced back and it proves its resilience as it just continues to just slowly climb and hold out and it's a gradual climb. I think it can't be stopped.
Oh, well, I'm liking it. I hope you're right.
Yeah, we'll see, I guess.
We will see.
Anyway, yeah, I'd be curious what people think. Give us your opinions. Say, no, there's no way. Peter Schiff, maybe he'll chime in our comments. I don't know.
Peter Schiff,
get more book buyers.
Yeah, we invite you. We know you're selling a book. It's the end of the world, and the zombies are coming. Buy gold now and cans of baked beans, and hide yourself in a bunker.
But buy my book. Yeah. Buy my book and the baked beans.
Peter, please leave a comment on. I know you need the publicity more than anybody. Leave a comment. Tell us what you think about our $1 million Bitcoin predictions, or at least Darren's. But I think we both think it's absolutely not unfeasible. I guess that's, if we have a consensus, that's what it is.
It could take a long time. I mean, that's an enormous amount of market cap. But again, all market caps are expanding against cash. So
yeah. And I guess that's the other argument. If it hits $1 million, what's $1 million worth?
That's anyway? Right. It might be like, all right, okay, we can go out to dinner, guys. I got my $1 million Bitcoin. I'll leave another $1 million dollars of Bitcoin for a tip. There we go.
Yeah, we can. It might be another. We might have another rush of pizza buyers spending $1 million on a pizza because $1 million about buys a pizza.
It could happen.
Yeah,
it has happened.
So we'd love you all to subscribe. We want to hear what you think about the possibility of $1 million Bitcoin, and when, why, how, who drives it. Is it adoption in the developing world? Is it investors? Is it Wall Street? Is it just a gradual realization among everybody that our money is being debased by our appalling central banks and government policies? That's going to drive everybody to accessible hard money that does it. We're interested in hearing from everyone, and please subscribe, like, sound off, abuse. Tone the abuse down. We can't. We're tender souls in many ways.
I'm very sensitive.
We're very sensitive. Yeah. And Vegas Darren has lost the opportunity this year to go to the world's, what is it? The greatest outdoor spectacle of nonsense in the world has been cancelled, right?
What are you talking about?
No idea what I'm
Explain.
talking about.
I do not know what you're talking about.
Are you that anti-Calgary that you're not down with the whole Stampede thing?
Oh no, I'm not down with the Stampede at all.
Wow, I thought
Sorry,
everybody.
Calgary.
My God, you might have you could have started a civil war, man. between
I don't know.
Edmonton, Calgary. I
don't see the point in doing it.
I go every year because we're there, and that's what you do when you're in Calgary. And
I like steak, so I'm not like some kind of, anti-animal cruelty, whatever dude. I'm not like, what's it called? What's that big organization?
PETA?
Yeah, I'm not like that, but I don't know. I don't need to go watch people do stuff like that to animals at the same time.
Oh, the rodeo thing. I must admit, when I first watched it, it was a little, I thought, geez, this is kind of like the rope around the sheep and the getting tying their legs up and turning them up, flipping them on their backs.
It just feels unnecessary to me. I mean, I know it's a part of the whole process, it just, I'm not going to go pay to watch it. I'm not going to go pay to watch people butcher an animal, but I'll eat it.
John McAfee, we'd love to hear from you. We're also not going to subscribe to Netflix if they announce that John McAfee eats the big one. So we wouldn't pay for that. We wouldn't pay for rodeos, but we'd love to hear from you about your own $1 million Bitcoin price prediction. So, yep, everybody, we'd love to hear. Peter Schiff, John McAfee, sound out below. Wendy O, we'd love to hear from you as well. There was another episode of the Crypto Radar podcast where the radar is firmly fixed on crypto, and where Vegas Darren has expressed his complete lack of disappointment for the fact that the Calgary Stampede was cancelled this year due to COVID.
Couldn't care less.
He couldn't care less.
Well, I mean, I feel bad for people losing their jobs. That's not a good thing.
Are you kidding me, mate? The thing's run by volunteers. They didn't pay anybody.
Is that right?
Yeah, they sacked their volunteers.
Okay, well, whatever then.
Thanks for tuning in again, folks. Make sure you subscribe and like and leave your comments. Right on.
See ya.